Well, good evening, folks. A little after schedule, but we're here tonight with somebody I had promised would come on at Game Hall Con last year. We had some one cancellation on my part because I was exhausted before EcclesiaCon. Just had to wait a little bit until we got it together. But I'm here tonight with Scott Plaskett, who's the creator of a system called Trinamyk, and we're going to get into that. How you doing tonight, Scott?
Pretty well. How about you, Wes?
I'm doing pretty good. So we had technical difficulties. I was looking at my send thing, going, I sent him the private link, right? But you were having your laptop camera was not working. So are you on your phone right now?
I am.
See, that's what I like about EV Mooks is that it does work on the phone pretty well. So you're doing a pretty good job of not giving us all shaky cam nausea. So that's really good. So when the camera's doing this. So I just want to, what I usually like to do for my chats with folks is I just like to do a little bit of a get to know you stuff because we've met all of one time at Game Hall Con. And then I guess we did meet each other at Page too, but you were under the weather there. So I do like to do a couple of get to know you questions, and we're going to talk a little bit about the game and your experiences developing it, and we'll see how we go here. But the first question I always have, and given the fact that you are in costume tonight, this kind of goes. This is a strange and weird and unusual hobby. This is good. I'm actually thrilled for this. This makes me happy. So we are shoestring budget, and we are talking to the entire world, which is that's the greatest thing about the internet right now. So we have this weird and wonderful hobby. It attracts weird and wonderful people who like to dress in floppy hats. Not that there's anybody that I can see right now in frame for that. So here's my question for you. How did you first get involved in tabletop role-playing games?
So, like a lot of people, that goes back to the very beginning days. And I was probably around 7, 8 years old, probably. So we're talking about like 1979, 1980. And,
Okay.
in my neighborhood, I was the youngest kid. And so some kids were 6, 7 years older. And so they had a better framework to work with for the game, but they let me
Gotcha.
play. And some of the kids were just a little bit older than me, but uh, started with D&D and ended up playing a lot of other great games like Dom Patrol and Boot Hill and Star Frontiers, Divine Right, like Car Wars, really expanding out to a lot of different stuff and not really diving into a whole lot of them for a long time. Actually, we played a little
Okay.
bit of each and just kind of bounced around, and it was a lot of fun for me because that's how I was just like a lot of diversity.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I like the fact that the six kids who are 6 or 7 years older than you included you. And that's because that's not a typical type of thing, especially when you're 7 or 8 and they're in their teens. But they actually included you in the game.
Yeah, I think it's because I was a little more smarter, a little grasp it a little bit better, and
Okay.
at times I actually surprised them with some of the things I did, especially in Car Wars to the other people. So I had one get really upset
Kids
with me at
are
one time.
kids are natural chaos demons. That's the way that I always describe it, which is awesome. Eric wants to know if you're actually streaming from the Renaissance, which is nice, and Great Mustache is here, which is always nice. Hey, Jonathan, how are you? So cool. I love that. So did you start with Moldvay Cook in 1979, 1980, or were you playing advanced D&D right at the start? Basic or
So
advanced D&D?
I actually think that it was the pink purple box. That was at least the box I had. I don't know what they
Okay,
had. I
so
know
that's
at some
Moldvay.
point I did see now I don't necessarily know which version it is, but it was the one when the green robes, he's opening up the doors to the realm, I guess. That book.
That So that's the easily cover for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
Okay, so at some
if my
point there was
memory is
that
serving
one.
correctly. Okay, you were bouncing all over the place. I love the fact that Car Wars got in there because who doesn't like a good Mad Max? Let's just destroy vehicles game. So you've bounced around. You were playing a lot of different games there. I like Star Frontiers. That doesn't often get a shout out. When you're playing a PC, so you've continued to play these games. So when you're playing a PC, what are some of the character tropes that you tend to lean into? Are there ones that you kind of hit the beats on, no matter what system, or
You
you like to
know,
rotate a few?
um, my favorites probably go back to ones that have diversity to them. So playing a druid
Okay.
and being able to, change shape and do other things was a lot of fun for me. But really, when it came to tropes, I actually really kind of didn't like any per se. So I was always trying to figure out what I could create. So even to go to like D&D fourth edition, right? And people
Okay.
talking how they didn't like it and they felt it was so constrained. Like I never saw the games like that. Always felt any of them could be created, but I had a warlord, so I was playing that leader role.
Uh
Get
huh.
that healing in there, be kind of the cleric style, but I played a dragonborn, so I could have a thunderous boom with me as well with the breath and kind of play almost bardic, if you will, as a leader.
Okay.
Or my last game of D&D before I said, look, I got to go do something else because it's too limiting for what I want to do, was to play a um, wild, crazy tribal shaman medicine man. So I wanted to wear no
Okay.
armor, carry a staff, at the go crazy at some point, and then just like charge into
Okay.
battle where I shouldn't be to try to hit something with my staff, play kind of like a sword mage, and still be able to heal or do some magic as well, and play that very tribal theme, but almost that barbarian style. But I'm not really using a barbarian. Uh,
You
so
made
uh,
your own. You rolled your own barbarian. It's good.
I did.
So
So yeah, that's but if I did encompass it overall to say a trope, really would kind of be more the healer cleric styles.
so that's where you kind of like. But you. It seems like you really like an eclectic experience when you're running characters,
Absolutely,
and
but I
that
tend I
kind of
tend to
goes in
like go
with a
some
little bit with
healing,
Trinamyk
right?
too. Gotcha. Very good. I am. I given my day job, I'm prone to doing healing. All right, so now let's flip the other side of the screen. Have you done much? You're a game developer, so you've had to have done GMing. Like, what's your favorite thing about being on that side of the GM screen of running a session?
It was creating the experience and helping other people to be able to create. So when I gamed, this one game master in this campaign would give people one person at the end of the session um,
Uh huh.
extra XP for whatever they role played or did really fun, cool, or great. And most of the time, I was getting that reward, and it wasn't because I was trying to hog the limelight. Because I tried to pay attention. That I would sit back and just kind of wait for other people to do stuff, and kind of nothing would happen. So eventually, I'd be like, "All right, well, hey, well, why don't we try doing this or blah blah blah?" And like one time, there was a
Gotcha.
ward. There was a ward on the ground, and the party was split, and so we had to get to the other people, but we couldn't really bypass that ward, and we knew it was going to throw up flame. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm playing my this is 4E. So
Okay. Okay.
I'm playing my warlord. So I'm like, wait a second. I take my shield off, I put it right in front of the ward, and then I go back 15 feet. I take a running jump and I jump on top of the shield to slide across it. so so I made my deck save. I'm sliding across my shield across the flame ward as it goes off. So it's dispersing most of the fire. And so I get this reward and everything. This is happening a lot. And I'm like,
Okay.
but I feel bad for other people that, aren't that creative. And so it was like, wait a minute, let me be so creative in lots of different ways. So I can play a lot of different characters, I can do some monsters,
Uh huh.
and then I can kind of help people to give them like an outlet for something to like look at and see like, oh, is that a nugget over there that I should go and grab? Like, or a spoon and say, hey, let me help you,
Yeah.
figure out how to do something, or hey, you could try this with your abilities or kind of what you are. And that was the kind of this great thing about the game master I like, was being that kind of creative for people and like the world itself.
Yeah. The creative for the world itself. I mean, that's something that I. One of the things that really latches me on for it. I have not had that answer come back when I have asked that question for people who were deliberately like, I want to teach people how to be creative in the moment or give them opportunities to be creative in the moment. So that's kind of a new answer. I kind of like that. A
Thanks.
little bit of a teaching in there. Very nicely done. So that's good answers. We got stuff. So you played like you've played systems I haven't because I was out of the hobby for 3 and 4. So besides D&D, what other modern games have you played or are you playing?
To say modern, that would not really be the case. I mean, in 5e was
Okay.
where I had been. I had to go
Okay.
back modern past that. Aside from D&D, would have to be. Well, I was going to say have to be. No, that's 3.5. That would have to go all the way back because I ended up.
So not a whole lot of contemporary games right now is what you're saying. What you're
No,
saying.
uh-uh.
Okay.
There was a number of things that happened though in life, right? And so, like the
Okay. Right.
military and deploying and all this kind of stuff, where I wasn't doing anything except prior to that was World of Warcraft, right? So,
Okay.
so I had gotten away from this tabletop gaming, but when I was medically retired from the military, I hit this space of like, what am I going to do with my life now? Because I can't do a lot of active things that I was doing, and so I'm like, well, I'll dive back
Okay.
into gaming. So it was board gaming, right? So the closest thing I
Okay.
got to that was like Skull and Shackles board game or Defenders of the Realms. These
Okay.
great board games.
Uh huh. Uh huh. That's good. Pretty cool. I do have a question from the chat. Somebody wants to know what games are on the shelf behind you.
Oh, well, let's like talk about
See,
like
he has a mobile phone, so he can actually give us a tour.
yeah.
Yeah, you
So
have one or two.
Champions of Midgard, like we talk about like the fantasy realm style, like that was a really great
Uh
game.
huh.
And then like I said, I mentioned Defenders of the Realm. I
Uh
have
huh.
that one. That was really great co-op, to kind of play that fantasy kind of genre. And
Okay.
I love Dominion and other games, but those are some of the fun ones. Okay, I'll spell out one
Okay.
more. Epic Resort.
Okay.
The adventurers go on vacation. And
I
then that's
actually
when
might
that's when things
that's my
happen.
easy D6 world is that the person's trying to turn it into an adventurer's resort. I actually love that idea. So, and looking at this, so you got back in and jumped into the board game angle, which is something I'm still learning how to appreciate, which is cool. But how did you make that switch back to tabletop role playing games from
So,
jumping into board games and then getting back to the RPGs?
so I actually got back into RPGs prior to that. When I came back
Oh, okay,
from Iraq, I was hurt. I got hurt in 2010, and it's probably like a couple years after that, I don't think it was a year that I got back into gaming in that regard. Uh, a little heavier, but to go back prior to that, as soon as I got back from Iraq in 2008,
yeah,
ended up getting back into, and that's when I picked up with. I think that was just right off the bat 4E. I don't think I played anything else
okay,
at the. I don't think 3.5 was before that a long time ago.
okay.
So that was kind of like the get back to it.
It is very weird to think of 3x as a long time ago, but it
Yeah.
actually was a long time ago. All right, so let's talk. So a little bit about you. I love a little bit of the backstory. I did not know that you had served in Iraq or that you had been medically discharged. So glad you are doing okay. But I'm really interested in this because this is the first game that you've developed, or the first role playing game you've developed. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I dabbled with a card game, but I couldn't get anyone to really kind of like friends to help me and do it with me, and other than play it,
Gotcha.
a couple times. So this is the first
Okay.
RPG.
All right, cool. So, I mean, there's a particular mentality that goes behind designing a game. So I'm just kind of interested in that as we follow and we look up. I love that. This is awesome. And I actually absolutely mean that, guys, because like we are a shoestring streaming to the world and it's great. So what's your day job? Oh, puppy. Hi, puppy. Like,
Yeah, that's
what
how the
is your
phone
day job?
fell because she was like coming over to get my attention. I accidentally kind of like caught the table a little
It's
bit, which
if
shook
the
the
phone's
phone.
going to fall, best absolute reason for it. So,
So I don't have a day job anymore. I was medically
Okay,
retired, and that's, my sole life now. And
gotcha.
that was a lot of the hard times that hit me. And then coming back to gaming, was good, but not good enough.
Okay,
Ultimately, I would dive into very heavy my own game, even though I had played it
okay,
since 2017, 16. Uh,
okay.
um, yeah, I ended up like recently saying, you know what, I got to finally make this happen or not.
So, okay, so that is kind of cool because that explains a lot of your passion for this system, which was evident when you were at Gamehole Con. How passionate you are for what you are creating, and the fact that this is something that a little bit it's given you something to really focus on and fixate in making, which is really cool. So the other thing is with Trinamyk, when people are developing, there's an itch they're trying to scratch. There's something they haven't gotten from other systems, and they think to themselves, well, I'm going to make it myself. So, what is kind of the itch that you were trying to scratch when you started developing Trinamyk? What was missing in your gaming that you were really trying to include into it when you were making the system up?
It really was creativity. It was creativity for the players and myself. And I just wanted people to play what they want and have fun and just see where things would go. And so literally it would just start like this. So imagine, I told you that on Meetup or wherever that, hey, I'm going to do this campaign, be like D&D, right?
Uh huh.
And you're like, oh, hey, I want to play. So Wes, so right now, like, well, if you could think of all the things you'd ever want to be from like a TV, movie, books, other game systems, what would you want to play? How would you want to play it? It could be the same as what they're doing, or it could be different in some
Uh
way.
huh.
And then people just say, well,
Okay.
I kind of want to do this, right? And so I'd be like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I would just use the knowledge of all these different games I played to say, like, well, this is kind of a level one basis. So would you like to do these few abilities or activities in the game? And you can certainly do other things, but this gives you something to work with. And they'll like tell me, oh yeah, that's
Okay.
cool. Or they give me an idea, or I tweak something. And that was how I started.
So you were like kit bashing right from the start.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that,
And
like
even
you were,
rules.
like just okay, awesome, okay, awesome. So, like, how did this coalesce? Because kit bashing is awesome, and it's what we all do at the tables. But when you're writing a system, there's just got to be the point where you're like, okay, the kit bashing's done. Now I have to like create something from this, which is you said you got to that point. Like, what was kind of that moment where you went, all right, now this is how I'm going to try to coalesce this into something that's coherent that other people can use besides me.
So initially it was easy just to start playing in a very simple play style coming off of D&D and like
Right.
replicating some of that. And then I quickly went to D30, like with just on a couple sessions for more variability. And then over time, as I started to create these different things for people to play, I kind of recognized a structure, right? Which is kind of like what I have now of saying, well, rather than just like a couple different things, like if there's a sword mage, like why does it have to be a sword mage? Why can't it be a disciplined nature caster, right? And so
Sure.
then I started after I created so many of those, though, that were individuals to combine together. I kind of said, wait a second, if we look back of all the things been done, you have a basis that every character is. It's really like one of the tropes. One of the, I call them the
Okay.
seven, but the four were originally like it was. Look, you're either a wizard, a fighter, a thief, or a cleric,
Or cleric, yeah.
and then things were just built based on all of that. And so then I really kicked in this structuring that I'm kind of used to and for other things. And I said, wait a second, why don't we just put these certain conditions and abilities and activities underneath a base? And then
Okay.
now you can combine, because why can't you have a shadow cleric?
Okay.
Why can't
Okay.
you have a shadow barbarian? And at some point, each one of those, because they have their own constraints, they don't make it anybody can do anything, but now it makes it simple to be able to say, well, I want to be able to just combine these few things together to create something fun and cool.
Yeah, it's the I guess the when we were talking at a game con, I did likened it to like you created like a set of Legos, that you could build into anything that you wanted to, but you were still constrained by the Lego set. So you're still using Legos, but you were still connectable blocks because we don't have the licensing for that. But like you've created that kit that you built in kit bashing to the system, which I thought was kind of cool. And the way you were demonstrating was really neat out there because you had the big touch screen. You're like, we can do this and this and this. And I thought you had me go through like the character creation process. I'm like, well, what trope are you? And I'm like, well, I'm literally a cleric, so I guess we have to do that. And we just built from there. It was kind of a fun thing that we went through. So we have that. The character build process is really kind of one of the unique things for the system. Mechanically, you said you had gone to a D30 for a while. Like, what's distinct mechanically about the game? What
Okay,
types of roles kind of pop out for it?
so one, I'm a D100 at this point. I always wanted to
Oh,
go to
you are a
D100.
D100. Okay.
But yeah, so I did go D100, and so that I think that's a little more unique, but that's not necessarily unique to fantasies. But the mainstream ones, it's unique, and
Yeah.
there's some embedded structures that actually like, well, why is that unique? Well, one, because of the D100 system, I set up a skill basis where if people want to play with skills, they can. And so
Okay.
it's not just climbing. If they wanted to be, yeah, I'm good at climbing, but I wanted to be really good at trees. So they would have a baseline to
Gotcha.
work
Okay.
with, and then they would have extra for being specific to trees.
Okay.
Whereas a person who's simple and new to the game doesn't have to have any of those skills, and that just defaults to coordination or what would be similar to dexterity. And if somebody was just
Okay.
climbing, it has a base structure, but in the game, if somebody's using
Okay.
climbing as a specific skill, if their skill ends in 6 through 9, and so their skill
Hmm.
is 57, and they make a successful roll that's 48, their skill also in their roll ends in 6 through 9, so they naturally go up 1%. So we have an
Okay. So
in
you built it so they're doing increase rolls or advancement checks as they were doing their normal checks in the game, which is that's interesting.
Yeah, and
So
so
would
and then it promotes that they fall out of that window. So it's not
right,
constant. They can't just like can't have a like some player go, "Oh, I'm going to pickpocket the beggar who's all by themselves in an alley and that's going to mean nothing." And they do that
right.
100 times in a
Uh
session.
huh.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so one, it has to be difficult. When we do things in life, if there's not a challenge to it, we don't get better at doing it.
Correct.
So if they're pickpocketing, aristocracy and they get their bodyguards there.
Do a little. You can be a little bit more advancement. So the way you've described it to me for this is that it seems like you have like almost like a sliding scale of crunch to the game. You can play it real simple, or you can play it with a lot of finesse to the way that the roles are set up. Would that be accurate to say?
It is, and that's a segue. That's one of the things that's unique to the system is that when we look at modularity for not just characters, but we look at the structure of the game,
Mm-hmm.
we can balance these out very easily. And even D&D itself, I mean, someone could say like you don't have to look at 20 different skills because they're all based off of dexterity
Dexterity.
anyways,
Yeah.
or whatever trait. And so, yeah, now they give you a little bit of a beef, but if you're not into dexterity, what do you care if you got another +2 or 3 to it when really you need like +8 to matter?
Right. Okay.
So yeah,
I
so
have to pause, especially the way I roll.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we can simplify the game, and that makes it better for people to learn new games or even role playing itself because man, you ask them like, "Hey, okay, roll dexterity for me." The person's brand new; they're still looking for like 6 traits. They're like, which one? Like, where's dexterity at on my page?" you know. But eventually, that person starts to realize at the table, like, well, wait a minute, what do you mean you got acrobatics? Like, that sounds cool. Like, I want some acrobatics. And so you're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, now write that down in your sheet. Acrobatics. Okay, now we could go through whatever system they're doing and say, okay, this is how they build acrobatics. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. So they learn as they play. And as long as they're having fun, they will ask for more information. They will want more. And
So
whatever.
this is this fascinates me because usually with a high crunch game with a lot of nuance to the crunch to it, it's very rigid.
Hmm.
Whereas you're designing this to be there's a high crunch that you can move towards with a lot of flexibility, which is a unique concept. Like that does not happen a whole lot. So it does fascinate me a little bit that you were able to hold those two threads together, because so many people want, they're like, no, they're two different streams of thought, you can't do it, and you went, oh no, here, let's put them in the same game. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. And it's because I don't force the bonuses. I don't force more content. I mean, you need your trait bonus plus your proficiency bonus to all stack on top of this, and like,
Yeah.
at some, like, what does it matter? At some point, you just say, look, I'm going to make you more special at what you want to do by
Okay.
what you create, because somebody else doesn't have any of that. They don't do any of those extra bonuses. Like I
Okay.
told you, they just use their dexterity, which I'm a D100. They don't get a bonus on top of it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so we can. It's so easy to simplify in these ways to give people this ability to move forward to where they want to play. The only time it matters when you get somebody who's a rules lawyer and says, well, how does this have to replace with somebody else? And well, they're not doing the same thing I'm doing. Like, I use four different two hits. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Now hang
Now I
on, but
think my
here's
brain hurts. Okay, go.
yeah. Now here we go. So
Pitch it for me.
that no, but that's what you say to me when we're gonna play. And I'm like, hey, no big deal, because when you first come for your first session or to talk about it, I'm like, yeah, you're only gonna use one two hit. You get 40%. That's it. Like, based on your cleric, you're 40%.
Okay.
Where
Sweet.
where a fighter would have 50 55, right? And
Right.
the
Yeah.
the rogue would have 55 60 65. So what happens is that as they want to specialize in melee, hurl, projectile, or mana attacks with spells of their mind, they
Okay.
start to dive into those. Now, in general, the fighter's going to have 50% to hit, let's say. And
Right.
so if I'm going to go in there and I want to be better at hurling, I'm going to spend some points for that. So I'm going to get up and, like, oh, I'm going to be better at 55. But maybe my baseline stat for melee because of that is 48. So you're still better than me
There's a
overall, but I'm
yeah.
better when I want to go into battle and hurl my two-handed battle axe right at the beginning.
Gotcha. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to how the characters are structured, which is it's interesting because you've created it to start simple and move towards it, so you're not hitting people with the fire hose right from the beginning, which is a very nice setup for that. So you had talked about how the game you have been really kind of trying to put this game together since about 2017, trying to fix things out. We've already talked about how you went to a D30 and eventually got to a D100. What are some other aspects of the game that have shifted over the time that you've been developing it to get it to a more coherent system instead of the kit bashing you have been done? Like, what are some of the things that really evolved as you were kind of moving towards that?
Well, let me expand more on the two hit because of that,
Okay.
right? So, because I didn't have four initially, but what I
Okay.
realized from gameplay is of how to expand is, like, who is hurling weapons? Nobody's hurling weapons. Like, people are
You
just like, look, I'm
you
gonna
have
use a
not played
short
with my
bow.
group. You haven't
What?
played with my group,
Oh
but
yeah, right. Yeah, I shouldn't say nobody.
yeah,
That's not fair.
yeah.
But a lot of people just don't in most gameplay, and so, because hurling weapons is nothing unique or special. And I said, well, what's unique about them? And I'm like, well, because I have a quick phase, because that's one of the things I created, that
Okay.
people can do things very beginning of the game, early on, be engaged without doing a full turn. And
Okay.
so, okay, so wait a minute. So now you can hurl a weapon as part of your quick phase. That's something special. And then,
Hmm.
but imagine if a barbarian or a fighter took and hurled a two-handed battle axe at you. If you got hit with that,
That would hurt.
it would more than hurt. Like, it would probably knock you back or knock you down.
Well, and or in half. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
so here's the cool thing. So now I set up and I evolved into this to try to like how can I make hurl weapons matter more that people want to play with them, right?
Okay.
So a spear or a battle axe, and on smaller level, if a dagger hit and did well,
Mm-hmm.
it can make you lose one of your actions. So you could choose to lose. Oh, I'm gonna lose my move action. All right, well, it hits you in the leg, right? Or you
Okay.
just say like,
Okay.
yeah, well, that dagger hit me in the leg, so I'm going to lose my move action, right?
Okay.
Or their simple action. But if it's the two-handed battle axe, it can do more, right?
Okay.
And so there was a framework I set up around that. So that was how I evolved into this, like, how can I add more to the game and look at what seemed undeveloped or unactualized in gameplay to me.
Okay. Okay.
So is that one direction, like you're asking me about, like how some things evolve that are unique
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
where to go with them?
That's kind of one of the things that you had done. Interesting. So, how many people have you played this with over the
Yeah.
last decade?
Okay. So here's the downfall that I've had, right?
Okay.
For getting to this point of trying to like bring this forth to the populace. Um, I played just to play.
Okay.
And so I didn't have social media. I didn't go out and try to meet people at gaming cons and
Okay.
show all this. And so I had 3.5 campaigns.
Okay.
So yeah, so aside from some people dropping out or whatever, and each one was either like 4 or 5 people, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so so roughly we're talking about like 16 people per se, right? That
Okay.
that that I had played with. Now, when I've got a group together, I might meet with like 8 or 9 of them
Okay.
to sit down, kind of like a session zero, but like do a mini session and
Okay.
say, okay, like if you're gonna play a fighter, you just get strength and choose whatever weapon you want, damage, it's all
Mm-hmm.
fine because I actually let these people play together to show them some of the differences of the way I was playing,
Okay.
which was really easy early on because it was more like D&D, right? But
Right.
it really was. It was just only show them a few things about the game, but it was more so about the group.
Okay.
So I might have had 8 or 9 sitting there, but they weren't really playing my system so much. They were playing an uh, an ad hoc of it
Right.
to find out. You know what? I don't think this person's right for somebody I want to play with, or somebody else in the group would want to play with.
Okay.
And so that was how I formed the group and got, let's call it 16, right,
Okay.
to play.
Okay. But you haven't done like a wide play test from this.
I have not, other than
Okay.
I can say I have done much more than that by going to so many different conventions last year.
Well, that's, yeah, that was going to be my suggestion for that is to really get more eyes on it so that people can tell you if like the stuff that you think makes sense. This is really confusing. It needs to be, codified a little bit stronger. So, but you did that last year at the conventions you went to.
Yeah, but that was still tough because a lot of people don't want to try a new game. My name of the game Trinamyk doesn't bode well to well, what is this game?
Okay.
Dagger hard, draw steel. Like we all get this. Well, I don't know,
Yeah.
draw steel. You might be like, "Am I pulling out a pistol?" Right? But they have enough behind them that they're getting people. But uh, just then on top of that, like people not showing. Uh,
Yeah.
I had one guy come in. He's like anti the entire party at the very beginning. I'm like, look, I framed this as you're coming to learn the game itself, right? Is one
Right.
thing,
Okay.
and even if you're playing at a con, like, why would you go in right off the shoot of anti-party? We're not talking about like some little dynamic of one little thing, like, oh, I'm gonna sneak that one little gem right out of the chest.
Right. No, they were just, yeah, that's not a good player.
Yeah, so
So,
I was running into some of these different issues. I had some gal that was doing we were on the they were on a ship, and
mm-hmm.
one gal was going overboard and she's like, I throw them a life preserver. I'm like well, there's no life preservers. Like, what do you mean there's no life preservers? There's a ship. And I'm like, well, this is a fantasy world and life preservers haven't been invented or anything like that. And I'm like, if
Uh-huh.
you can think of something you would throw over, and she caught me so off guard and other things going on. I didn't think of like, well, look, can you think of things I subtly said it? Can you think of things that float you would throw over?
Right. Okay.
but they came up with that idea when they were already stuck. And I already said, well, you could take a rope and use your heroic action to grab the rope and swing out over the railing
And
and,
get them, yeah.
look to grab them and this and that.
Hmm.
They didn't take that. They're stuck in the life preserver. So, I just at times find these odd situations that start to detract from what's, the purpose that I have or other people having fun at the table.
Well, there's that's always the rub for things to go through. But that's kind of the reason why I would love to get more eyeballs on it, just so you can get prepared for some of the things where the people who will do things that you wouldn't think they would try to do in a million years or try to break in a million years, they'll go out of their way to break. And it's not because they're trying, it's just that just they're wired is to like, oh, here's a crack, let me jump through it and see how big I can make it. That's something I would really love for you to be able to do. I would love for you to have that experience of doing that, which is hard but really really beneficial. So
Then, I mean, I have had that. I mean, there was a completely different context. I mean, it wasn't like she told me, like, can I grab a barrel and throw it over? Like, oh no, there's food stuck in there. You can't do that, right? Like, so I'm pretty
yeah,
flowing and easy, and that was the nature of my system to do that.
but people aren't necessarily used to it. It's what I'm saying. It's like
Oh,
they
gotcha.
want people want the rules. So it's that
Yeah.
finding a way to communicate that free flowing nature of the game to people who are used to having a strict set of rules that they can work with. If you ever encounter a guy named Glenn Finney, he wrote a system called Clever, Cool, Crazy, who's a very flexible system, which is a lot less crunchy of yours, but it's got the same idea of I want you to think up an idea and I will tell you if it's clever, cool, or crazy, or all three. So that's his framework. Like that's his pitch that gets people to grasp onto that fiction, even though most people don't have any clue how the mechanics work. They at least grab onto that little bit of the fiction, and then they roll the dice, and he tells them what to do. That's the type of experience I really would love for you to have, so that folks can comprehend, or you can learn to help folks comprehend that free flowing style that you're going for, combined with this incredible crunch, which is to me again, it's a combination that kind of blows my mind that it exists. But it's really such neat ideas. I want to see them get in front of more eyeballs. It would be
So
really
on
cool.
that, I did learn a lot going to the different conventions about just basic verbiage and how, just not saying something well enough that somebody missed those concepts. So I'm getting better at that. But
Yeah.
like in that in particular, uh, I've actually like I created a tutorial on my game
Right.
page as well now, right? So people can
Right.
go and start to see some of that that's expressing better. But even the character builder, people get to the very end, they see all the crunch. It's like, yeah, because I didn't do the baseline simple one
Mm-hmm.
because most people want to see all the different dynamics you can do.
Right.
It's generally easy to say, well, you can just be this, like how much do you really want to see for that? But I
Right.
need to do that. So unfortunately at Gary Con, I had a young kid at the table. So I
Okay.
automatically was not going to video it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I automatically took no video of that game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one of them, we talk about the structure. People like wanting to have real structure. I literally had a person tell me like my character sheet should have had a complete backstory built for what they were. And I'm like, one, that goes against the framework of how I let people want to create on their own. And
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to play a paladin. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, well, what kind of God do you want to follow? And they told me protection of evil. And I was like, well, I don't really use evil and good in my world, right? You could choose to do it on your own. I said, but let me give you the context of some of the deities. But as soon as I threw out the whole, there's no protection of good, then they're like, okay, well, just forget I said it. And I'm like, no, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just want to give you context of my world so you can frame it the way you want. I said, for instance, if you
Mm-hmm.
saw good and evil as following the order of snakes, that would be different than, the god or goddess of purity and light. And so your framework of what is evil changes. And
Yeah, that's the type of nuance that people at a convention game just aren't used to.
oh,
That's
really? So
yeah.
see, now I got some other
No.
feedback because they were the
No.
only person who ever said anything
No.
like that to me. And I was like, yeah, just create what you want, like, and I will flow with it. I will show you,
Yeah.
right? And so, but ultimately, that production had enough things with them that I didn't use that video, and there was one video which shows this creativity and flexibility that's in the game, because
Okay.
that was the people who played OSR style.
Yeah, because
One,
that's when you only have six stats and nothing else. That you're kind of making stuff up on your own on the fly anyway. Which is
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but they played OSR, and basically, so that changed my no quick phase, no main phase.
Okay.
We're rolling it all in. However, one person wanted to play with a more complex built character sheet.
Okay.
So they chose for my other set because it gave them a framework. And so that
Mm-hmm.
video is on there, and they told me about, you know, how much they liked it, and what in particular, like the heroics and other things, that they could have these freedoms,
Yeah.
and it was simple to play.
Yep. It really is. It's kind of an interesting. You have a lot of interesting ideas. You really, really do. And I would. I'm glad that you're doing the conventions and you're having that kind of experience and the pushback from folks. And some folks can be jerks, that just always happens. So I do want to switch because things have changed in the last year, even since Gamehole Con, which is it's one of the reasons why we delayed a little bit to do the interview on the channel. Because last year you had some books with your stuff that was, I'm assuming that they were playtest books that you had out, or they were beta copies. I forget how you were pitching them.
Yeah, those were basically my prototypes because I never had official books when I played. I
Right.
except one spiral bound that I threw together just for the character abilities and that. But when it came to um, uh, actual play of, like, what is concussion, what is surprise,
Right. Okay.
like, I just flowed with all of those in the moment, because I see those things as being conditional for a lot of different reasons. So
Okay.
yeah, so now I had to create those books that you saw, which is to say, people do need to see a rule set in some sort of guide.
Sure.
So then I state certain things, but then I expand on it. Says these are ways you can modify in the game, so you don't have to say this is +2 flanking.
Good. Okay.
Like, what is
Yeah.
flanking?
It's nice to have a concrete thing that people can flip through. So which is neat, and you're very passionate about being able to show people like what you're doing with the system, which is really cool. And then the reason why we paused in doing it is because at the time there was AI art in the books,
Yep.
and you did listen to feedback because you're stepping into this for the first time, and that is all now gone. So for folks who might have heard, for people who heard, it's like, well, he had AI in the books. I want people to hear that that is now not in the book anymore, in those
Well,
things
more
anymore.
importantly, it
Yeah.
was never my intent to stay with AI art.
Right.
Um, but to give so people understand why I started with it, because I told some gal at my first convention,
Uh huh.
hey, you choose one of 7 base classes, and at the time it was 2 of 53 other classes,
Jeez,
and that gives you over 9,000 combinations. She said, oh, wow, that's a lot, and walked away. And I was
that's a
like,
lot.
ooh, it is. But I didn't show her how easy it was, which is why I came up with these little flip books.
Right.
And people love pictures. They love being able to see things. There's so many
Sure.
things you can convey with a picture. So so I started off with that AI art, and
Uh
then
huh.
that was just to see if people liked what I was doing. Like, did even on a greater scale,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
I finally was like 4 conventions in. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? People are liking what I'm doing, and I need to start that conversion. But well, now I got to find the artists, and some of them slung me
Right.
AI art, and I caught them. And so
It's getting to be endemic anymore. Yeah. So you have to be
yeah,
really
but
careful with the artists that you pick.
eventually I had one that I liked with, and then I got to 9 of them, and it
Uh
took a
huh.
long time because I have replaced more than like 120 images of art. And it wasn't
Uh
all that
huh.
I was using them all to show in the books or whatever. Some of them
Right.
I would give to the artist as, hey, this is conceptually what I'm looking for. And I'm not a nitpicky person. Whenever doing
Okay.
commissions, it's difficult to like convey what you want. But because I
Hmm.
could use AI art or a collage of things and say, I like this, I like this, I like this, create what you want to create
Uh-huh.
that embodies that, that made it very
Okay.
easy for me to work with them. And they love that.
Okay. That gave you
So,
something to work with. So who are some of the artists that you got to work on this for you?
Artie was the first one, and Artie is
Okay.
in the Philippines, if I recall, and or Indonesia, and uh, Daniel is one of my favorites. He even did some special art that was for me personally, just gave it to me as a gift. And
Oh,
now
thanks.
it's a big backdrop I have now. And Daniel's
Oh,
down in
cool.
Argentina, but I am really trying to support artists though. So aside from just
Okay.
saying their name is in a book,
Uh-huh.
originally I was putting in their link information, direct
Cool.
contact. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, people can go on my website. They can go to the promotions page. They can go to the artists and look at them as a whole, as a group. And then they can click on
Mm-hmm.
an individual artist and say, wow, I actually would like commissions from this person.
Okay. Cool. I'm sure they really appreciate that. I got a question from King Eric, the greatest of all, which is one of my favorite YouTube names of all time. Is Scott on the East Coast? Are you an East Coast or West Coaster or Midwest?
I am Midwest, so I'm in Colorado.
You are the Midwest, also high.
Yes.
So actually, in Colorado, that's true in multiple ways now.
Yeah, right.
So
I was going to crack that joke out. I let it fly.
no, it's legal here now in New Jersey too. So Midwest, Eric, sorry for that. So that's these artists, they're out there for you to go, which is really, really cool. And my other question for this, because I always thought this was really interesting, the normal flow of things nowadays is to create create an audience, create a game, some mix of that, and then crowdfund it to bring this to fruition. You are not crowdfunding this, right? Or
Not
you haven't
specifically,
up to this
no.
point. Okay.
It is a style of that I was trying, right? Which was just to say, look, I've got these books, different degrees of finish, like 95%, 80%, whatever,
Right.
right? And so, but I set up on, hey, on my website, you know, some reward levels and really high hope reward levels, and
Uh-huh.
I set up a way for people to get involved and to see like how many people are getting involved. But unfortunately, like without the social media, like that's just not happening. It's just not working. I don't have the following behind me. I don't have the name
Yeah.
that I've created so many different things. And so there's some things I'm missing and I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Okay.
So really, I've even thought of pulling back and saying, well, maybe I won't release any books. And, the few people that I've buyed in so far, maybe I'll just refund them or get them a beta or something, right? But uh, I created a big window of time too, so I don't know how and why I'm missing people because I've had over 300 people sign up to
Mm-hmm.
to follow and be a part of it, and
I mean,
so many people.
whenever you get that type of following and on social media, I mean, like I have almost 5,000 subscribers and my videos get like under 200 views because it's just a flood of information. So finding your little niche that will attract people, that is distinct and stands out from other people, that's always kind of the big trick, because you have some good ideas. It's just getting them in front of people's eyeballs in a way that captures their attention. So unfortunately, the amount of people who sign up for stuff, it doesn't often translate to people actually showing up and doing things. I say that as a church pastor.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, no, no. I totally get it. No, you're right. I mean, there's a number of things that I missed. I didn't understand early on that I should have started a long time ago, even before
mm-hmm,
going to game cons, and then afterwards starting it right away or putting more emphasis toward it or trying to
mm-hmm,
figure out how to make it work. But unfortunately, I got so much good feedback and response, I kept loading myself up and then I became
yeah,
overloaded. And now
mm-hmm,
I didn't want to just cancel. I actually have at this point. I canceled my last three cons. There's too much travel. I'm having too many medical issues, and
mm-hmm,
it's I'm not seeing that people aren't even leaving comments on my videos. Do I make sense or do I not make sense? Right? Like it sounds
right,
great. but then they don't leave a comment, so other people don't leave comments, and now nobody thinks nobody's following or whatever, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
just this cascade that I'm trying to figure out, how do I reach people? And right now, I am trying to do that with more things that they can be involved with, which is like the tutorial
Okay.
online. I've had 14,000 people ping on my site.
That's good.
So I know that the character builder online is making a difference. I got to check on the
Uh-huh.
tutorial, but I'm even working on, you know, a simple play thing where people can actually play a little more of the basics on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to end up resetting, and then I'm looking to get more videos of me playing the game with other people so that you can see that. But you got to get people's permissions, got to
Yeah,
get
it's
the
a
group
struggle.
together. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out the right way just to get information out, so that people feel like it's something they want to be a part of, and supporting me. So
Yeah, I have. Here's King Eric for. If you ask God for guidance, He'll give you more subscribers. Thanks, Eric. Eric's always got the pastor joke to throw in there. So uh, these are a couple of things that I really would love for you. As I was kind of preparing for the interview for this, because you had such neat ideas. You're really, really passionate about your ideas, and you're going to the cons now, which is really cool. And I know with your health that you had to cut back a little bit. But also, when I was looking at your original timeline for, hey, we're going to get the book out on this, and I was going, that's really ambitious. Just because of the people that I know who have worked with publishing for that. One of the coolest things about this hobby, which is, and this is something that I would love, in addition to all the eyeballs getting on the game, would love for you to experience, is the folks who are established in it, who have gone through the publishing gauntlet to get a book out, are so helpful. Like, they want to give advice, they want to give feedback because they really think that in helping kind of lift everybody up so we can create these wonderful games for people to play, we all do better. And so, like, you have this whole community of people that you can lean on, that have gone through what you're struggling with right now, that would absolutely be willing to help. It's as long as you just kind of go quiet and humble, be like, I just need a piece of advice on this one thing. When you approach people like with that type of humility, they will oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes be ecstatic to help. So that's something that I would love for you to have that experience. That would be really cool. King Eric wants to know what your channel's name is. It's very simple. What's your
at
channel's name?
Trinamyk, so
So,
at Trinamyk. Yeah, I mean, give me some feedback. If you don't like something I said or you don't think it makes sense, put a comment there, and I'll respond back, about how I should look at making the changes, or how I'm just a nut job and I'm going to stay my course and sink my ship. But I don't think I'll
we're
be
all
doing that.
we're all nut jobs. It's fine. It's just nut jobs in different ways. It's good. And that's one last thing I want to go through, because there's a reason why you named it Trinamyk. So where does the tri come from in Trinamyk?
So that is a new name. That was when I actually needed to market, and so I just wanted something different. And I am a three-class system if you're going to use them all. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the TRI. I feel like what I've done for gameplay and character creation is dynamic. So you flip the I and the Y and a C to a K, and I'm here, and you got it. That's Trinamic.
He's created a trademarkable name. Basically, it goes through. So it was really cool. The dynamism in creating the character, and if you look on his website and see the character creator, you really, that my Lego analogy is actually really kind of cool, because you can build some kind of wild stuff with it. It's very neat, very very neat. But like I said, you get such great ideas. I want to see you at least continue to work on them to where you can get them into more and more people's eyes, to where people can see something unique and different and wild, because you have this very distinct system, and I think that's kind of cool. So, and for anything else, just be proud you made it.
Hey, thank you very much, and I'm so glad that you took the time to check it out in November, and then we saw again in Page where I was really
Hmm.
busy, and
And not
I'm
feeling well.
yeah, it's just a lot of things happen at times, right? And
Hmm.
so it's just you just got to go with where you got to go. And I'm looking forward to try to get back to Page, even though they've already like um, done their games. Any cons I can still get into, I can. And then
Hmm.
I was watching for Concoction as well. I've watched the things coming up about that. So
Uh-huh.
kind of waiting to see what I need to plan for the latter part of this year for
Gotcha.
cons, and into next year, so
Gotcha.
that I've got a better backbone for people, and can take part in some of these great conventions.
Absolutely. And the events just opened up to be submitting for Page. So if you're going to run a game there, this is your window to get it in. For
Oh, I thought that
Page,
already passed.
no, it just opened up. No, no, no. Page
Okay.
events won't close until like September, October. So it's just the submissions are now open for that. Concoction just passed.
That may have
Which
been it.
yeah, it feels like it's all the same thing anymore. It's very crazy. No, Scott was not at EcclesiaCon, so Scott would be welcome at EcclesiaCon, but that was last month, and also it's 100 people. It's not worth coming. Have you heard of Wes? Have you heard of Claricon? It's in Ontario, Canada. Yes, okay. Give 1 second, Scott. I don't want to take away from you.
Oh,
Yes,
no, no, no.
yes, I have heard of Claricon because I actually am acquaintances with the dungeon minister through his YouTube channel. I've had him on my channel for an interview a couple years ago. Really fun guy, Father Aaron. And when I first heard about Claricon, I had two thoughts. And the first thought was, dang it, that guy stole my convention title because now I can't use it, and it's the perfect title to do for a convention that's run by a person who is a literal cleric. Although he wears the collar, so he's earned that moniker more than I have. And then the second one is, oh hey, maybe I can do that. So the fact that there is a clericon is part of the reason why there is an ecclesiacon. So you have the dungeon minister to thank for that. So yes, I have heard of it. One day I will go when it's safe to cross borders again. So yeah, so that's going on. But yeah, I think you really need stuff, and I'm glad you took the time to kind of throw out your passion for this system. The D30 was a left hook I was not expecting. Not many people use that die. Very very cool. But going to the D100, people really are using that more and more, which is really cool. And I really hope that you continue to develop this and see where it goes. So very,
No, thank you
very,
very much,
very
Wes.
cool. You get your con schedule set for the year, and hopefully we'll bump into each other at something. And we're just about an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and just say goodbye to everybody, but you stay on the line so I can talk to you and say goodbye and thank you properly. And we will be right back. But say goodbye to all the wonderful peoples who are watching.
Hey, thanks for watching, and
Thank you.
following Wes, and adventure well.
Oh, I like that line. All right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, so that's Scott Trinamyk. I'll put a link to, I don't know why I don't have it in the description now, but I'll put a link to his site in my description on the video for that, so you can go check it out for that. Go check out the tools that he has. He's been very responsive to people who have offered a little bit of critique. Like he got through, I know he didn't want to have the AI art in there. He got rid of that really quick. And it's a really interesting dynamic that he's created in this system, and it really could use more eyeballs to get some more feedback on it so people can get into it. So if you're interested, go check out that. I'm sure he would appreciate it, and it's a lot of fun. Coming up on my channel, I am working on my Coriolis The Great Dark Review. I have got it recorded. I have the main track edited out and cut. I am now putting B-roll footage. Hopefully that'll be out by Wednesday. I also recorded a video of me kind of going over how I'm using my e-ink tablet for campaign and session prep now. So that's recorded. I'm going to start editing that and get it out. And then I have Redacted coming up. And I may have a live stream of Redacted coming on the channel pretty soon, which should be really cool. I will be at Concoction at the end of this month. Going to be running around doing lots of interviews for the Page YouTube channel, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.